The Paris Committee on Capacity Building was established under the Paris Agreement for the purpose of addressing gaps and needs and implementing capacity building in developing countries. The countries decided that the panel will be operational in 2017 and will focus on enhancing capacity building efforts such as implementation of training, public awareness, public participation, and public access to information. It will also foster global, regional, national, and subnational cooperation. In its first session, the committee will concentrate on capacity building activities for the implementation of NDCs. It will also take into account cross-cutting issues such as gender responsiveness, human rights, and indigenous peoples' knowledge and explore synergies for enhanced collaboration with a variety of actors. During the second week, the joint high-level segment brought together over 70 heads of state and government, in addition to ministers and heads of delegation, to generate political will to take collective action to address climate change. On Thursday, 17 November, the presidency read out the Marrakesh Action Proclamation for our Climate and Sustainable Development to the COP plenary. The Marrakesh Action Proclamation was issued by heads of state, government and delegations to signal a shift towards a new era of implementation and action on climate and sustainable development. Among other things, it notes the momentum on climate change is irreversible and is being driven not only by governments but by science, business and global action at all levels, and stresses the need to purposefully reduce emissions and to foster adaptation efforts, which will benefit and support the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals.
We call for all parties to strengthen and support efforts to eradicate poverty, ensure food security, and to take stringent action to deal with climate change challenges in agriculture. We call for urgently raising ambition and strengthening cooperation amongst ourselves to close the gap between current emissions trajectories and the pathway needed to meet the long-term temperature goals of the Paris Agreement.
Fiji was announced as the incoming president of the 2017 United Nations Climate Change Conference, otherwise known as COP23, which will be held in Bonn, Germany in November 2017.
What we've seen here in Marrakesh are very important words that all the world is standing together in the face of climate change. But what we need to see next year is that really countries are improving, putting money on the table, putting a lot more money on the table for adaptation financing, and also improving on their pre-2020 action and improving on their NDCs. What I mean with clear guidelines, a couple of clear guidelines, is that we know all that in 2018, 2 years from now, we'll have the very first assessment where all countries will be assessed whether we are globally on track to meet the Paris Agreement's goal of 1.5 degrees. We all know that with the current INDCs and with the weak action we have pre-2020, we are not on track to meet the 1.5 degrees. So what we need next year is very clear guidelines from the COP in order to make sure that there's an assessment whether each country is delivering their fair share for the 1.5 degree goal of the Paris Agreement.
I came to see His Excellency the President of COP22 to solicit advice on how we can conduct COP23 successfully. And we're planning on having another meeting in January in Bonn with his officials. We will then talk of the final issues. But it's a big responsibility for a small island nation such as Fiji. But we know that we won't be able to conduct this presidency of COP23 without the assistance of persons such as the President of COP22.
The Paris Agreement will be implemented with the help of modalities, procedures, and guidelines on a number of issues such as mitigation, adaptation, transparency, transfer of technology, finance, capacity building, implementation, and compliance. These will be spelled out in the rulebook, the writing of which has already begun and will be completed by 2018. Therefore, discussions, workshops, and roundtables on key questions will continue in the forthcoming months. And to whether COP22 was a success, the jury is still out. The Moroccan city of Marrakesh, host of the COP22, has launched Africa's first fully functioning bike share scheme, known as Medina Bikes, with 320 brand new bicycles docked in 10 key landmarks and available 24/7. The environmental friendly project also taps into an old cycling tradition in the city.
The city of Marrakesh is one of the first cities to take this initiative because cycling is part of the culture of its inhabitants. Secondly, we want to see this project in all the Moroccan cities because it is an initiative that creates jobs and makes it easy for many citizens to move because of its very low cost.
Cycling is seen here as a possible way to alleviate the pressure on the city's congested roads, while also keeping with Morocco's commitment to implement green policies. The Medina Bikes project was conceived by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization and supported by the Moroccan government on a local and national level. It was implemented by Moroccan company Estates Vision in partnership with France's Smooth, the company that launched similar programs around the world, including Moscow, Chicago, and Vancouver.
One of the objectives of these economically friendly bicycles is to reduce the carbon, while the second objective is to reduce congestion, because people can use these bicycles to move around easily inside the city.
Also helping the cycling revival in Marrakesh is Dutch NGO Picala, who offered free bike maintenance during the COP22. More than 1,000 bicycles have been fixed or serviced free of charge.
The association is aiming to encourage people to ride bicycles for health reasons as well as for environmental reasons. Bicycles are easy to use in Marrakesh because the city's roads are flat and riding is easy, contrary to some other Moroccan cities as Agadir, El Jadida or Casablanca, known for their hills. It is well known that the inhabitants of Marrakesh love bicycles and use them, especially considering that most of them have a modest income. Thanks to this initiative, it is possible to repair a bicycle from A to Z free of charge. They repair anything that needs to be repaired.
An annual pass for the bikes costs 500 Moroccan dirhams, that is about $50, while the weekly rate is $15. The prices are likely to be too high to be used by many residents, and further infrastructure investments, such as providing cycle lanes, may be necessary to increase rates of cycling in the city. If the scheme is deemed successful, Morocco is hoping to spread the Medina Bike scheme to other cities, including Casablanca, which was ranked 5th in the world for levels of air pollution in a recent survey by the World Health Organization. Morocco is hoping to become a world leader in the protection of the environment. It banned plastic bags in July and has committed to using green energy, such as solar and wind power, to produce 52% of its energy needs by 2030. Well, we can only hope that as we already live in a climate-changed world, the global community will not procrastinate any longer in taking decisive actions. I'm Ayola Kasim, asking you to join us next week for another episode of the program. But should you have any comment or question, our inbox Earthfile@channelstv.com is always available. From all of us here in Lagos, it's bye for now.